Okay, in this video, we're going to have a look at the printing of your Excel spreadsheet. So what do you need to do if you want to print a physical copy of the sheet to a physical printer, or even if you want to print it to a PDF document? So the first step in terms of actually printing is you go onto your file menu and you click on print. This basically brings up a print preview page. So it shows you here what the actual printed page is going to look like. So on the top right, if you're ready to print, you can click on the print button over there. And before you actually do that though, you want to make sure that you're happy with all the settings over here, which we're going to look at. So the first one is which printer you're printing to. If you have multiple printers connected to your system, you can click on this drop down and select whichever printer you want. I've got a PDF writer, so you can actually print this document to a PDF file if you use what we call a PDF printer driver. Now the first thing to note here is that there's 12 pages. So on the bottom it says there's pages 1 to 12 that will basically be printing. And to see what the different pages will look like, you can scroll down here on the right. So I can see that's what page 2 will look like and so on. Now the first thing you'll notice is that this page here doesn't make any sense. It's basically got some of the columns, but not all of the columns, right? And so, on its own, if it had to print out like this, it wouldn't make much sense. So the reason for that is because of the way the information is actually set out to be printed. So what we're going to do is we're going to click go back. And we're going to go to the view option in the menu and actually click on page break preview. Now what this shows us in the page break preview view is the way the information is going to be printed. So you can see it's this section over here that's going to be printed on page 1, and this here is actually page 5. So if you go down, page 2 will look like that, page 3 would look like that, page 4. Now obviously this is not a good way to print it. We would in fact rather have all this information that I'm highlighting, for example, that should be printed on one page, and then maybe the next section below that I'm highlighting here should be printed on the second page. So the way it's actually printing here is what we call portrait mode. So it's like actually printing in a portrait mode, whereas we actually wanted to print in a landscape mode, which is going to go that way. So let's just look at how we can change that. So I go back to that print preview page, but instead of going file print, you can use the shortcut key of Control P, which brings us back here. So the first change I want to show you is on this drop down, you can see it's currently set on portrait orientation. We're going to change it to landscape orientation. So you can see now it's changed to landscape, which usually means that more columns can fit in the page, right? And now it's still showing us 12 pages. And if we scroll down, we see it's actually going through a few pages, but when it comes down to this page, there's still some columns that are basically left over. We can go out of this and we're back into the print preview. Now these dotted lines, as you can see, these are called page breaks. They show where the page breaks. So this, for example, this area here, which is showing as page 1 that I've highlighted, that will print in page 1. Whereas it then goes down to page 2 and so forth. And when it comes back up here, this prints in page 7. Now, if we wanted all of this whole highlighted area, let's say that section there, to all print on one page, what we can do is we go hover over this page break. So you can see this blue dashed line. When I get to a double arrow, I'm going to click and drag this across. And that's basically telling Excel that I dropped it off at this point. So I'm telling Excel that I want that page break to move to the end. So all of this now gets printed as one page. So if I go to Control P now, you can see that looks a lot better. All of the columns are fitting in. Remember, the gross profit percentage column was the last column. And if I scroll down now, it actually looks a lot better. And it's actually now printing over 4 pages. Now, in order to fit everything, all the columns into one page, it obviously had to make the print size a bit smaller. So in terms of the size of the font that would get printed. But as long as it's still readable and you're happy with that, you can actually go with it. Now, the one thing that's going to be quite obvious is that when I go into page 2, I don't actually see any of the headers over here, right? So I don't know what's actually, what each of these columns actually represent. So we go out of here. Right, and what we now do is we go to the page layout tab in the menu in the ribbon, and what you'll basically see is there's a print titles option, so we can click on that and it'll open up the page setup dialog box. Now in the page setup dialog box, you can see there's an option here that says which rows do we want to repeat on the top. So if I click on this icon over here, I can then go and select the row. So I'm selecting row 4. You can see it's got $4 colon $4. And you can see it's actually highlighted that row. And if I now click on this drop down and I say OK, what will now happen is, and let me just actually make the zoom bigger. So I'm just going to zoom in on this. It's actually to make that bigger so we can see it easier. And now if we go to the Control P to the print preview before printing, you can see, okay, the first page there'll be no difference, but when I go to the next page, I now have this header on the top of this particular row is repeated on every page, so we can actually see the headers. Now maybe we actually don't only want the header, but we want every page to also indicate that it's December sales. So the way we would do that is going back. If we click on the print titles here, instead for the rows to repeat at the top, what I can do is I can actually select rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. Right, so you can see it shows from $1, $1, $4. I click on that drop down there and I say OK. Now if we go into the print preview, and the first page, obviously it makes no difference, but when we go to the second page, that also says December sales, and so does the third page, and so on. Now, one of the things when you're actually printing this document out, when you, for example, you can see this is page here 4 of 5 that I'm on, right? Ideally, we should actually have something in here in the footer or in the header that says page 4 of 5. And Excel enables us to do that. So if we go out of here, so to make this change, we go into the print titles again. And in the print titles, you'll see there is a tab here that's called header or footer in the page setup dialog box, right? And in this page setup dialog box, we can say, for example, in the header, if we click on this drop down, you can see it says, now the name of the file I just want to point out is 5-printing. That's just the name of the file. But you can put in predefined things. So if I want to just put in the page number and the file name like that in the header, I could do that. And if I click on OK, it will basically do it. So you can actually put things either in the header. You can see this is the header area over here, or in the footer. So just to show you, let's assume we just put in the page number, and this is the full path to the file. So it's under a folder called Excel on my C drive, and the name of the file is file-printing. And let's just assume that in the footer we put in the name of the sheet, right? Or we can put in this word confidential and the date. So let's just do that. And now I'm going to click on this print preview here to jump directly to it. And you can see now it says confidential here in the footer. It has the date that I'm printing this. And it also has the actually has the page number, right? And similarly on the top, this is what I put into the header. So whatever we put as a predefined selection, we could include it over there. But what you can also do, if I click on the back here to show you, if we click on this expander, we jump back into that dialog box. Going to the header and the footer, you can also select a custom header and a custom footer. So let's first click here on the top and change this to none. Let's remove this header. And for the bottom one here, what we're going to do is we're going to click on custom footer. So you can see the moment I clicked on custom footer, it's got this word confidential that was typed in. It's pulling in the presets that we had over there, right? So let's say the one thing that we had was it was only showing the page number, right? So if we want to show page 1 of 5, page 2 of 5, let's look at how we do that. So we type in page, right? And this icon here, right? If you just hover over it, if I hover over that, that basically gives me the current page. So I say page 1 of, and this one here is effectively going to tell us how many pages in total. So you can see these codes that it puts in basically means this stands for put the current page number in, and this ampersand and pages means put the total number of pages in. So this will say page 1 of 2, page 1 of 1, page 1 of 5, page 2 of 5, and so on, depending on how many pages there are. This is just basically the date. So you can see here, you can insert date. So when I hover over it, it tells you what it does. This inserts number of pages, that inserts the page number. So in the date, I can actually put in the word date. So I'll type in the word date, colon, and then what I'll do is on this thing at the end of it, I'm going to press the enter button, and I'll even put in the time, right? So we'll put in the time. And if I go to this one, I can actually delete it. So just to note, this is the left section, which means the bottom left of the page. This is the center section, which is the center of the footer. And this will be the right section. So you have effectively 3 sections in the footer, just to be clear on that. And on this particular one, let's say we actually just wanted to insert in the, this is the path and the file name, right? So basically the file path and the file name, that's just the file name alone. So we'll use this one, which shows the full path to the file. And this is normally helpful when you, for example, where you have something that's stored on a shared drive and you want somebody later on looking at it to know that, to know that this is where that file can be found if they're looking to access that file. This here inserts the sheet name, right? So I'll just enter here and I'll just type in sheet name just for illustrative purposes, and I'll click on that icon over there to insert the sheet name. Okay, and this you can also insert pictures and format the pictures, which we won't do here. I now click on OK, so you can see now it shows you what the new thing is going to look like, and we say OK as well. Now that I've done that, if I go in, press Control P, right, you can actually see now it says page 1 of 5 over there. It's got the date and the time the way I inserted it. It's got the file name, the full file name with the path, and it includes the sheet name. Now, whatever I did here in the footer, we could have also had a custom header. You don't necessarily have to have a header. We just use the footer for for the purposes of this example. But it's important to know that you could obviously apply the same logic to inserting a header. So at this point in time, if we scroll down, we can actually see, somebody picking up, for example, this printed page would immediately be able to pick up that it's page 3 of 5. This is the name of the file. This is the sheet name that's been printed out, the date and time it was printed out. And we've also got these rows repeating on the top. So now everything looks really good.